watch the start of this lecture in another video. This is part 2.
But this lecture is based on these three books, the Data Feminism, the Living in Data book by Jeff Thorpe, and Factfulness by Hans Rosling. I have contributed to making this book happen. So in the book you see this is my bubble chart in here, and there's like many other illustrations throughout the book which I helped create. And here's the Dollar Street pictures from the other project. So of course I recommend it, but it's not because I helped creating and writing it, but because like I sometimes listen to this book again as an audio version, and it has like all these like cool stories of Professor Hans Rosling traveling the world and like discovering like way different ways people live, and getting like his mind boggled and perplexed by the new knowledge that he collects. So all these stories, they make the book so fantastic, and like I listen to it again, I'm like, yeah, it's actually a good book then. Yeah, but these two others are as well quite interesting. This book is very actionable. So the next slides I have, they're like following the stages, are like tips that are proposed in this book, Data Feminism. And then this book is very brain heavy. It's mostly text, and it's very like good writing. It's artistic writing. Jeff Thorpe is an excellent writer, and here this might have been like doing good attempts of taking you to level 7. This kind of book. That's why I find it like so hard to follow that one. But anyway, the basis of this lecture is mostly this book, Data Feminism. It has these 7 principles that it proposes. Examine power, challenge power, elevate emotions and embodiment, rethink binaries and hierarchies, embrace pluralism, consider context, and make labor visible. So with each of, and it's free online, so you can read it. There's like a link online, you can download a PDF, but there's also audio version of all these books, so it's quite easy to get access and listen to them. Principle number 1, examine power. We must analyze how power operates in the world, and we ask 3 of the who questions here. So who does the work and who is pushed out? Who benefits from the work being done with data? And whose priorities gets turned into products and whose are overlooked? Yeah? I have a note here to mention a target case. Do you know what that's about? No? You reacted on the target case. Do you know the target case?
I just figured that you were making that yourself.
Yeah, okay. The target case is, you know, like the Target, the store chain that sells you all sorts of crap. And then at some point they decided that it would be like interesting to run a machine learning algorithm on purchasing of different customers to predict if they are pregnant or not. So if the woman is pregnant, they can then sell and send the coupons to her home to like advertise pregnancy-related products. So sometimes that machine learning algorithm would classify the pregnancy status before the customer herself would know that she is pregnant. And in this particular case, her house where her parents live, they started receiving coupons on pregnancy-related things, and she didn't tell them. So that's how they found out. So clearly this is like some sort of invasion of privacy happening here, in terms of like, well, what is the relationship of this woman to the world? What's her relationship to her family? Is that even like, how does that all come together? So it does benefit the corporation, but not the person whose data is used in the process here. Yeah, but usually we have like 3S, which is like science, surveillance, and selling. Those are the institutions that have the power to collect the data on other people. Those are large universities, the government, and the corporations that sell you crap. Yeah, they all have their own agenda, and it's like important to recognize that agenda and be aware of it. It also has a privilege hazard, so even with the best in design intentions, we may not recognize how others live in the data systems that we create. Like, I'm so white and privileged, that I would create a system that would maybe totally overlook black people altogether as like they don't exist at all. And an example of this lady, her name is Joy Buolamwini, and she was doing a project on machine learning in her class. And her task was to use a face recognition system on her computer. And she wrote all the code, and it's supposed to work, and she double-checked, but it didn't work. And then she was like, why is it not working? Double-check, triple-check, not working. And then she called the supervisor, who was a white guy, fucking guy, I don't remember, but who was white. And he would just sit down with her, and the system worked instantly and recognized his face. So it's like slowly they understood like what is happening is that she's not seeing her just because she's black, as she's not like visible to the software. Maybe good for the Metro facial recognition case, but here she kind of like she finished the project by wearing this white mask, which the software has no problem recognizing. Sad and also comical in a way, the situation here. It is because the data set had very limited examples of black women in it. It had like limited number of black people, like black men, and it had limited number of women in the data set of faces. And then on the intersection of those, you have the double damage disadvantage for black women there. So that's how that worked. Principle number 2, challenge power. Yes, very level 6 thinking. You see how it's related to the levels here. So commit to challenging unequal power structures and working towards justice. So become data citizens and not just data subjects. Yeah, how to do that? The book proposes 4 action items to do that. Collect counter data, analyze and expose oppression, imagine a more just society, and teach in your local communities. We'll take the 2 first items as the examples in my next couple of slides. The first one is collecting counter data. The idea behind this is that what we measure becomes important to us. And what we measure and what we not measure is a political choice. It's a decision, and sometimes deliberate. For example, if you go to a police department, an actual thing or a website, and you ask, well, do you have data on racial biased police brutality? And they're like, of course not, we don't have data on that, we don't collect that data. So they don't collect that data is a political decision that they decide to not collect that data because they don't like what they would find out from it. Yeah? So here in this example, the author, Maria Salguero, here, she collects data with volunteers on femicides, yeah, gender-related killings of women and girls in Mexico. So homicides, but like towards women. And this data didn't exist in any database. They just thought this is an important social issue to work against so that we can fix it. And they started collecting data and analyzing it by themselves. So this is collecting counter data. The next is analyze and expose oppressive data systems. Here is an example. Do you know what that is? The redlining maps. So in 1930s, there was this homeowners loan corporation which divided cities into districts, and then they've analyzed if people in these districts would be able to pay back the mortgage or not, and that's how people would either get a loan on the apartment or a house or not get a loan. So they classified different districts by different risks of people living there. of paying back the loan, and people in districts C and D wouldn't get the loan. As it happens, districts C and D happen to be black neighborhoods, so the black people wouldn't get the loan on the apartment, and they wouldn't get the house, and they wouldn't be able to establish themselves as like more to like higher income level in the society because of that. So there's like already an inequality that is perpetuated by this algorithmic practice of 1930s. But however, it doesn't stop there. Because if you look at the maps of today, this is Social Vulnerability Index, which is a measure of a community's capacity to prepare for, respond to, and recover from human and natural disasters. An example from Richmond, Virginia, but it's happening in many cities in the United States. So you take a measurement from today, like Social Vulnerability Index, air quality data, life expectancy data, and we always see the shapes, maybe like a bit blurred, but the shapes of the same redlining map from 1930s, which is still present in the data in the lives of people today. And this, I have the original example of, this is a redrawing, and this is the original example from 1930s. Yeah, so even today, when you are giving like loans to people and you are in a bank and you build a data system that decides if you want to give a loan to people or not, your data system would analyze, and you're not like, we are supposed to be like not considering race anymore because we're not racist, yeah? But you can add questions to your questionnaire which are proxy indicators for a race, such as being raised by a single mother or having friends who are in prison. And then you can kind of like run a classifier and you can infer race status from other proxy indicators. Yeah. So be aware of these practices that can happen and challenge them and expose them. Yeah. What's it? Again, level 6 thinking. Data is never raw. Data is a result or a product of unequal social relations, relations affected by centuries of history. Most people talk about machine learning's ability to predict the future. What it really does is predicting the past. This is the consideration. However, if the data is raw or not raw, if the data is constructed or a result of social inequalities, that's a contested view, yeah? Previously, I was showing you the data about the electric resistivity of copper with different temperatures. So it's like 2 different degrees, and some people argue that, well, even that data about electrical resistivity of copper is full of unequal like social markers, and there is the social inequality is embedded in that data even. And at level 6 you get something like, well, at level 4 you get like what's it, like alchemy, and there's like Hindu chemistry, and there's like European chemistry or Spanish chemistry, and at level 5 you just have chemistry. You just have chemistry that is supposed to work in all countries and in all the cultures. At level 6 you start having like racist chemistry or patriarchal math or whatever you have, yeah? So this is like the ongoing conversation between these levels of thinking, and it has a place, you know, to mention. But anyway, if you have an algorithm that predicts a probability if a convict in your prison will reoffend, then it is a high chance that this algorithm would just classify you to white and black people. Yeah. So audit these algorithms and don't let them hard-code human biases and inequalities. That's a good principle to have here. And then I go to principle number 3, elevate emotions and embodiment. So what this level does is it values, or not level, but this principle does, it values multiple forms of knowledge. It values people as living and feeling creatures and not just like brains in a vacuum. So the world, this is like a quote from this book here. the world cannot be understood without data, but it cannot be understood with data alone. Yeah, that's a good level 7 thinking here happening. This is why I made that indication there. So here we would value the immediate presence of direct experience. This is another quote. And I have an example now. So I'll play that example. It's a data visualization thing. And I want you to make a mental note of what you felt as you've seen it. And then you tell me back the feelings that you've had. Okay? It is about gun killings in United States. US gun killings, 2018. So we have one person here who is killed at 52 and could have lived to be 94. Please tell me. What did you feel watching this?
Like overall upset.
Upset? I have that, yeah.
Sad.
Sad?
Like after like the initial like sad, depressed feeling, I'm like questioning like where this data, like how do you get the stolen years data when they're like killed?
Yeah, life tables. It's a thing that gives you life expectancy, so you can like predict statistically how long a person would live from like different place and income status and so on. So you could like estimate those. Those are estimated.
Mm-hmm.
But like grief, anyone? Loss, the notion of years of life lost, that's a loss. Yeah. So this chart, which we've seen now, let's compare it with the other chart on the same topic. Here I have a chart from Washington Post, and it has the era of active shooters, number of active shooter incidents annually. So it's a bar chart it's a nice bar chart, yeah, with numbers and like it's done correctly. But like, what's the difference between this one and the other example?
It's a lot less emotion, but there's no, you feel like you don't lose anything. You just feel like, I don't know, it doesn't even look that bad. Like, well, from an American perspective.
It's just kind of like, oh, the numbers are there.
From how it looks, it doesn't look like anything. It's like generic. You could just as well have that of milk production or whatever. Like it's the visual structure here is so generic that it doesn't tell you anything other than the numbers itself. However, the other one engages you on the emotional level as feeling embodied creatures like we are. Yeah, so it's an ongoing conversation in data science and data visualization. And there's like different books that are fighting over different views of the database. There is the classical books by Edward Tufte, Alberto Cairo, and Stephen Few, who just happen to be the old white men, and they say that data visualization should be designed. It should not be designed to evoke emotions. It should be neutral. Yeah, we should appeal to reason only. Any ornament is viewed as suspect, not scientific, messy feelings, or even feminine. Yeah. In these kind of maps, we use what we call a God trick. A God trick, I want you to remember that meme. A God trick is seeing everything from nowhere, which just makes it look capital T true. See, you have the high up perspective. This is all happening down on Earth. You see from higher up. This is the God trick. You have the principle coined by Ben Schneiderman, overview first, then zoom and filter, then details on demand. That's the God trick again, but like with with interactive features there. So this is all level 5 thinking. And then data feminists in this book, they come and say, well, how about now? We can build it up slowly towards an overview. And we can start with individual, data points. Like you first have one person that has been killed and could have lived to this age. And then you have another person. And then it builds up to an overview slowly. Yeah? And the accumulation from like one data point towards multiple data points towards the overview picture is what engages you on the emotional level and takes you through the paces of the storytelling that this chart suggests. Yeah? I hope I make it relevant. I hope I'm like didn't introduce this for nothing, and you can use that to like think of the data science and data visualization and apply that to like get yourself and others to higher levels. Yeah, and then at level 7 you're supposed to integrate the two opposing viewpoints. So remember of the graceful integration, and remember of the elegance as the value of your intended solution. So at level 7 you say that reason versus emotion is a false dichotomy, and rhetoric versus truth is also a false dichotomy. You have multiple ways to display the data. All of them will be true. All of them will be factual, but they would have different rhetoric load or different rhetoric payload in them embedded. And you can design that and think of that and not let that be accidental or random. This is it for now. If it is interesting, we'll continue that lecture next time. What do you say? Yes?
Yeah.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Is it like, does it feel relevant for whatever you study? Okay, good. Then we shift our data science, data transformation things a little bit further. And we take the rest of this lecture next class with some summaries and so on. Okay, all right. Thank you for today.